opposition. How is that opposition different in the Senate in terms of the actual members themselves, the industry, sort of the forces opposed to change it?
Well, first, I did have a bipartisan bill, and then Arlen Specter got religion. And so now I'm still looking for a Republican co-sponsor, and I hope that we can find one. And those of you in the reform and progressive communities who have friends on that side, I hope you'll encourage them to consider this bill. The opposition obviously comes from those with the money who have a big role and a big voice in the current political process. The opposition comes from incumbents who think they have a winning formula to be reelected and fear change. That's understandable. The Supreme Court decision, as I mentioned earlier, may intervene in that thinking and lead them to a different conclusion about their future. And I guess one of the biggest problems we face in the Senate, when it gets right down to it, is finding time to bring an issue like this to be debated on the Senate floor. I think you all know what's happening there. The minority in the Senate is using the Senate rules designed to protect the minority most effectively, to slow down and stop things from being considered, nominations as well as legislation. So Harry Reid and myself as whip sit there in anguish over how little time we have and how much time it takes to do virtually anything. To bring a bill like this up and debate it in the Senate would be to commit at least a week, maybe 2 weeks, to go through all of the procedural possibilities to get it to a point where it can even be debated. And that is one of the problems we have in the Senate. But not that it can't be done, but it is, I don't want to understate the challenge we face.
I'm going to ask one last question, then open it up to the audience and maybe those who are with the press. If you could raise your hands and ask the first questions, and then hopefully we'll take a few from some of the others. I guess finally, Senator, how do you respond to critics who have and kind of inevitably will call this piece of legislation sort of public welfare for politicians, and argue that they don't want their government's money going to subsidize views that they don't agree with at the end of the day? I mean, how do you sort of square that circle?
Interestingly, when the voters are given a direct voice on this, they choose it. They get it. They understand that they are currently paying for this system. They may be paying for it directly or indirectly, for sure. I made a statement a few months ago that got quoted around when I said that about the power of the banking lobby on Capitol Hill. And I said it on an obscure radio show in Chicago, progressive radio show, and the next thing I knew, everyone was quoting it, and I never figured out how in the heck did, I know nobody was listening to that show, you know, but in the world that we live in, I finally found that there's a progressive blog in Illinois, and that blogger was listening to the show, and off it went. And basically, I talked about the fact that when it came to the banking lobby, they owned the place on Capitol Hill. Might have been an overstatement, but not by much. One of the people I ran into afterwards said that that statement was like a bolt of lightning into a swimming pool. He said it just woke everybody up that something's going on Capitol Hill we hadn't suspected. And the reason I bring it up was we learned when I was in a debate over an issue called cram down, euphemistically, to give the bankruptcy court the authority to renegotiate a mortgage for someone who is facing foreclosure on their home, and lost that to the banking industry now twice on the floor of the United States Senate. A banker friend of mine sent me an email that was sent out by the head of the Arizona Banking Association. And this lady said to all of the representatives of the major banks and her counterparts in other states, she said, I know Durbin has this bill on bankruptcy reform. He is making compromises and concessions in an effort to pass this bill. We've got to stop him because we have a promise from the Republican Senate leader that if we'll stop Durbin on this, they'll support us in stopping any further regulatory reform. I mean, this is the total smoking gun as far as I'm concerned. It tells the whole story, and it's in writing as to what is happening behind the scenes. So when people say, you know, I don't know if we should have public financing because that's my tax dollars, I can tell them that their resources, whether tax dollars or their personal wealth, are being impacted every day by decisions being made by special interest groups that are fully vested in this process now. Put the money in and get the results. And it's far better, I think, as these referenda have shown, it is far better to let the candidates go out and speak to the people and get to know the people rather than to spend their time amassing wealth so that they can spend it on local television stations.
Great, great. Have we got some questions from the audience? Yeah, Don. We'll wait for the...
Hi, I'm Donald Sussman, actually board member of CAP. You talked about needing a scandal to get this to reform to happen. Don't you think the American people watching healthcare reform in the Senate think we have a scandal?
Some do. I think some are troubled by the fact that 2 out of 3 of Americans support public option and it can't seem to get enough traction to pass the Senate. I hope it does, and my salute to Harry Reid and his valiant efforts to keep the concept of public option alive. But you all know the story. 2 or 3 Democratic senators have announced they can't vote for a bill with public option included. So a lot of people across America say, I don't get it. If 2 out of 3 people are for this, why can't the Senate be for it? And other aspects of it in terms of what we're doing in relation to health insurance companies, in relation to pharmaceutical companies. I think there is, I don't know if it is anger or sadness or people walking away, prepared to walk away from the political process. But I think this bill has brought some of those emotions out. Having said that, if we can pass this, and I think we can, if we can pass this bill, don't minimize the accomplishment. It is huge. I don't think it, probably not fair, but I'll just go ahead and say it, I don't think LBJ, with all of his prowess politically, could have passed Medicare under the current circumstances. What we're up against in terms of the political system and campaign system in America today. It was just starting in his era. Today, it is full-blown in terms of the millions of dollars that are being drilled into this process to stop reform.
We've got time for one last question. Right over here, sir. Hang on one sec for the mic. Hold on.
Senator, how much support is there from the Obama administration for the Fair Elections Now bill?
President Obama, as a senator, was a co-sponsor, and so he does support it in concept. I have not asked him, nor Rahm or any of the people in the administration, if it will be part of their priority in the coming year, but I hope it is. I think there's an appetite for reform across America, and I would like this administration to be identified with it. And if they could help and join me in this effort, it would be helpful in the Senate.
Senators are often not succinct, but that was such a succinct answer that we have time for one more question. So if I can ask...
you seem stunned, Winnie.
I don't mean to be rude. Right up here.
Norm Ornstein from AEI and Roll Call.
The famous Norm Ornstein?
To the famous Dick Durbin. Another part of the aiding and abetting the corrupt money system is a federal election commission filled with feckless people who have been ratified by the leaders of both parties to basically flout the law and keep anything from changing in the system with the status quo. We have commissioners whose terms have run out. The administration has not nominated people to replace them. I fear they will nominate people who will continue this system. What can you do to make the Federal Election Commission something that is at least neutral in this process and not an opponent of significant reform and change?
Guilty as charged. All true, everything you've said. I don't think the Federal Election Commission really performs the function that we envisioned it would, nor do I think we have the capacity to change the law and give it more power. Just flat out tell you that. I don't think we can get a bill through the Senate that does that. I wish that were not the case. We need a Federal Election Commission which makes some hard decisions and has some authority, and Congress, the Senate in particular, have gone out of their way to make sure that doesn't happen.
I want to thank you, Senator Durbin. I want to thank you all for being here and for this very enlightening program, which I know will continue. Our partners thank you very much for joining us, and have a great day. Thank you.
Winnie.
Thank you.
Thank you.